Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll talk about the NFL's Week 11 preview. How can we be at Week 11 already, Mike? It seems like the season just really started.
Yeah,
Uh, we'll
time
uh, we'll
flies.
be giving our picks of the week, our locks of the week. We'll also be spending part of it today's show talking about last week's games. The Kansas City Chiefs somehow crazy victory over the Denver Broncos. But we'll lead today's show with the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. We're normally uh, record our Morning Track Power episodes on a Tuesday night. Today we're on Friday night instead. So we actually watched the fight first, and now we're joining just after this. So, Mike, what did you think of the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight? Not Aaron Paul, but
No,
Jake
not
Paul
Aaron Paul. I
fight.
kept calling him Aaron Paul while we were watching. Um, it was underwhelming. It was, a young guy fighting an old man and not really winning in convincing fashion, but just because he landed a few more punches, he won by the unanimous decision, but it wasn't maybe more than a few more punches, but like he didn't like it didn't seem like it was anywhere close to either person being knocked out. So it was
No,
just it was just kind of it was sort of disappointing, and I think doesn't really show how. I think if you're Jake Paul, I guess you survive against Mike Tyson, but basically, it's just that you're 31 years younger than he is, and okay, and
yeah.
Tyson's almost 60 years old, and he still stood up to the young punk mostly, and
Made it
took
through the entirety of the fight.
yeah, the first round actually, maybe the first two rounds Tyson actually probably won, um, and the first round for sure I think he won,
Yeah.
but Jake Paul kind of just I don't know. I would have wanted to a knockout punch from one of them. Uh, Paul was the favorite going in and
But
won,
not
but
but not not huge favorite, but a favorite though, yes.
hmm,
Yeah, because only like minus 250, somewhere in that area. It wasn't skewed as far as you might guess for a 30-year age gap between two fighters.
yeah, the crowd really wanted Tyson to win.
Hmm.
Um, and I really wanted Tyson to win because I don't even know I don't even know who Jake Paul is
Yeah.
until this fight. So apparently he's a YouTube star.
Yeah.
What did he do on YouTube before he started boxing?
Yeah, I think he was like a teenager, I think, as a YouTuber, basically. So he did they did like whatever YouTubers do, Mike. Don't you know what YouTubers do? We're old people. We don't need to talk about what YouTubers do.
Oh, I thought so I'm looking him up. He was in Bizarre.
That's the thing, apparently.
He would play a character who accepted dare requests that he would then perform.
Mm. That's the thing that YouTubers do, Mike.
Yeah, that's really stupid. I wish he had been knocked out, but
Mm. Mm. But then, he had enough controversies apparently that he became sort of fell out of favor with his maybe even his original
Hmm.
crowd.
Oh, Logan
Uh,
Paul's his older brother. I
yes. Yeah. And then got into fighting. He is pretty huge now, though. Like physically, he's much larger than some scrawny kid anyway when he was doing his YouTube stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, so I mean, he actually does look like an athlete. He doesn't look like like he shouldn't have been in a boxing ring at all. It seems as though he's chosen a career path for whatever reason, and maybe legitimately in the area of
Yeah,
being a boxer now.
I don't really care.
At
Yeah.
least for boxing, much older opponents,
Yeah, I'd like to see him
long
box.
retired opponents, not in their prime opponents, but long retired.
You see him box like Canelo Alvarez or some sort of like actually like he's probably a bigger weight class than Alvarez, but somebody like really good
Yeah,
in his sort of prime. Um, or would like to see.
And he's fought a couple of MMA fighters in boxing matches, though, right? Not in MMA matches,
Oh,
but
okay. I thought he was an MMA guy, but maybe that's why I knew that he was. Um,
yeah. But there were all kinds of technical problems with the streaming. Netflix basically
yes,
was unable to support most of the interest that actually had in the fight, which is good for Netflix that many people were willing to watch a live stream on Netflix, which isn't known for live streaming. And apparently, we now know why they're not known for live streaming because they didn't have the bandwidth to support it. You were able to watch
I
the Netflix
was.
stream though.
I was. I got kicked out a couple of times, and it was buffering and things like that. But then I could watch it. But
Yeah.
it was, yeah. It doesn't bode well for Netflix trying to show NFL games later, because the Chiefs Steelers game is going to be played on Christmas Day, and it's going to be on Netflix. So
And it will likely have a similar audience, you would think, by numbers.
yeah,
It'll be
uh,
an unopposed NFL game.
yeah. I don't
Not
know
there
how
are no
many.
other NFL games
Yeah,
that
unopposed
day,
NFL game.
so
There's a later game too with the Ravens and Texans playing
yeah.
Christmas Day. So I will be in.
But nothing else at the same time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to go to the game, so I'll have to watch it on Netflix. I'll be in Pittsburgh though on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so anyway, that's the mm, I don't know, the wrap up from from Arlington, Texas.
Maybe one more note on the match though. To me, the match was so exciting. I literally fell asleep
You
during
did fall asleep.
it.
Well, you weren't able to watch or you really hear. I guess you could hear it over the over my webcam and sort of see figures fighting each other, but
Yes,
yeah, you fell
but
asleep.
literally fell asleep during the match, Mike.
Yes.
That's how much it was able to catch my attention.
You're an old man. Well, we did not fall asleep watching the Chiefs play last week. If you did fall asleep, you missed well, not a great game played by the Chiefs, but one where they eked out a victory with the blocked field goal at the very end, blocked by Leo Chenal. I think Mike Dana also got a hand on it after Chenal tipped it. Um, and there were several. It's like there were several people that could have blocked that kick. The Chiefs really did a good job in the on the block unit in that one. So they won 16. They won 16 to 14. The Broncos had lined up to take a 35-yard field goal. They would have won 17-16 had the field goal gone in. Um, what do you take away from the Chiefs' victory? Is it a solid win over a gritty opponent, or is it a sign that the Chiefs maybe are starting to crumble with they're 9-0, but how will they possibly be 10-0 after this Buffalo game, which we'll talk about a little later? But um, is this was this a just a snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, and it will go on to inspire more victories, or is it maybe a portent of weeks to come?
Well, I mean, if we're going with your second option there, I think we could have been saying that probably the same thing for the last 8 weeks because basically every game has had been a similar game to some extent where they've not really dominated most of their opponents and they've been fairly close and they've sort of managed to hold on by a toe in week one and some other possible like really close finishes as well in other games. So this is just like more par for the course for the season. But I know when the block happened, my immediate thought was like this is it. They are like a team of destiny at this point.
Ah,
It doesn't matter what happens in any game. They're in every game. They're probably going to win it no matter what. They're just going to find a way. That was my gut reaction to seeing it. Denver did everything right in that last drive. They bled the entire clock. They took it
yeah.
all the way down. So there was no chance for the Chiefs to come back afterwards. Mahomes was out of the game essentially by how Denver played. That's what you're supposed to do to try to beat these Chiefs, and they still managed to find a way to win anyway. Uh makes for an exciting season for Chiefs fans to watch, I think,
I
more than
think
anything
it was
else.
I read somewhere it was the first blocked field goal of like that length uh to win a game since 1999. So it had
That's
been
crazy.
25 years since an ending like that had happened. I guess maybe there's
That's
other blocks of
nuts.
like a 50 something yard field goal or whatever, but anything under 40 yards, I think, had not been blocked. Um, to a game winning field goal had not been blocked for 25 years. So
That's crazy.
yeah, it was a crazy game. Maybe the Chiefs have injury problems that they've suffered since that game. Wanya Morris was injured during the game. Kingsley Suamataia came in and played not very well. The Broncos really got a lot of sacks and pressures on Mahomes.
Mm.
Harrison Butker now is out going forward. But I guess they have Juju Smith-Schuster back. Isaiah Pacheco maybe is on his way back. Probably not this week, but maybe the week after. Um,
A Minihue,
Charles
currently
Omenihu
off the IR also.
also coming back from the IR. Maybe not this week, but next week.
Unlikely this week, yes.
Yeah. So
There were a few stats during the game though I thought were interesting that I wanted to just like rattle off just because they were kind of funny. So the Chiefs are 20-10 when trailing at halftime, apparently,
the
under
Mahomes era.
Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the league average win percentage in that scenario when trailing at halftime, 24%. And the
Wow.
Chiefs are well now 21-10. So over two-thirds of their scenarios they end up winning, which is
About 70%
ridiculous.
winning. Yeah.
And now the Chiefs are, I believe, in their last 9 games, trailing by 7+ points. They have won all 9 of those games, Mike.
It's
I mean,
remarkable.
anything about
Yeah. You wonder if it's sustainable, but you would say that it's not sustainable this far either. So I don't know if
no.
it's become, but part of it, I think also is the trend of, as we've talked about before, the Andy Reid gentlemanly home stretch where the Chiefs do not try to blow teams out. And I think that creates an outlier because I think people assume that, okay, points are kind of, a point differential is something that you can use to determine how good a team is, because you would think, oh, the Chiefs would get outscored in a loss just as they would outscore another team in the loss, but that's not the case. The Chiefs don't score much when they're ahead and they think they're going to win. And it's like the opposite of what the Ravens do or what even teams like the Broncos do. Uh, they don't they don't do anything when they're ahead. And especially if they're ahead in the second half, it seems like they just stop. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter to them what they win by as long as they win. And in some ways it seems like they even enjoy winning closer games then maybe they think it prepares them better for playoff football or something. And but you also think one of these days it's going to bite them because they're playing too close to the others, and maybe they are. Maybe it just turns out that way. But it seems like they are not when they get ahead. They don't try as hard as when they're behind to come back.
Yeah.
It's like they never like once to get behind, then they get blown out or something. That doesn't happen. That hasn't happened lately. Uh,
Mm-mm.
it did a few years ago when Mahomes was going through that bad stretch. I think that was the year. Was that the year they went to the Super Bowl? No, that's the year that they lost to the Bengals. I think in the championship game, they had that stretch in the early season where they like lost like the Bills fairly big, and they lost to the um, Titans kind of big. I think.
Yeah. But that was like when they had like no defense at all, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was the 2021 Chiefs season.
Yeah, that was before the Spagnuolo defense really like came into its own. It was the
Yeah, I think the Spagnuolo defense kind of came into its own at the end of that season. They were 3-4
yeah, yeah.
um, and they lost.
Because I think he sort of had a scheme that was designed for players he didn't have yet, but they went ahead and ran that defense anyway, is what it seemed like, right?
Yeah,
And then as they acquired the players, the defense then got better. It's like more suited for the style of Spagnuolo wanted to play.
Yeah, they lost. Yeah, they lost. Yeah, they lost to the Bills that year, 38-20, and they lost to the Titans 27-3. Then they rattled off one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 straight wins before losing to the Bengals. Uh,
Yeah,
and then of course, the Bengals had their number in the playoffs as well.
right.
But um,
Yeah, the Chiefs' point differentials, closer to the Chargers and Commanders at 6-3 and 7-4 than you would expect for an undefeated team. They're only plus 58 on the season, even though they're 9-0, Mike.
yeah, they're winning each game by 6.5 points. It seems like so.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they win. Yeah, Mahomes missed some open throws, but I guess you would say now that the receiving core is probably as healthy as it's been if Juju Smith-Schuster is back and as potent as it's been if DeAndre Hopkins is kind of learning the offense more, and you would say that you could say maybe DeAndre Hopkins was neutralized a little bit against Denver because Patrick Surtain was on the Denver team, but the Bills don't have a lockdown corner in the way the Broncos do. Their defense is nowhere near as good right now, especially with I think Matt Milano is still hurt. I don't think he's going to come back for the game. Um, but they've turned it's now it's Damar Hamlin is starting at safety, but within last year last year I guess he was recovering from his um, near fatal injury, but he was kind of a help. He was a scratch a lot of the times, and he's the starting
yeah,
safety now. So it seems like that's a symbolic kind of how Buffalo's defense has kind of faded. So their offense is still pretty good, but they have some injuries coming forward too. I guess we're talking more about next week than we are this week now. But
yeah,
um, any other, should we maybe we should talk about what some interesting developments in the world of Scaff Werman betting. Should we talk about our um, locks of the week, how those did?
yeah. And
They did
we
pretty
may
well
as well
for us.
start. May as well start with one of my games because I had this game that we were just talking about as one of my picks. But I know it wasn't popular on our show anyway, especially with you. I had assumed that the Chiefs Denver game was going to be close, and the Chiefs had a wide spread, 9.5 point spread. I didn't think they'd be able to cover that. I thought they'd win, but they wouldn't cover. So
Mhm.
it turned out to be very, very accurate. And they would have been right either way, I think, block or no block. But yeah, the
You would
wasn't
have
enough to
been blamed, however, if they had lost the game for your that was you jinxed the Chiefs. That's what I would have said. Uh,
possibly.
yeah, they did.
But that was a win for me.
Yeah. They did the game did stay. I picked the Chiefs plus 9 or minus 9.5 on the big board. But I also picked the under, which was comfortably under. We'll talk more about the big board in a minute, but that was the right way to go. I was 3-0 in my locks of the week. Um, so I think
For the,
I
for the
pushed
second straight week, Mike.
the second straight week. Yes, um, and I had three underdogs as my bets, and they all not only covered, but they also won the games outright. Um,
3-0 in 4 of the last 5 weeks, Mike. Did you realize? Did you even realize that?
I didn't realize that. I knew I was on a pretty good streak, so I think
Yes.
I've started to figure out this whole sports betting thing, and then I can become a professional gambler.
Yeah.
Um,
Seems like you're on your way right now. That's
yeah,
quite a hot streak.
yeah, but these streaks can come to an end pretty quickly, though. But yeah, I picked. Maybe we'll talk about the London, or not the London game, the Munich, Germany game, where it was the Carolina Panthers as 4.5 point underdogs against the New York Football Giants. The Panthers ended up not only covering but winning that game against the Daniel Jones led um, Giants. They won that game 20 to 17. Uh, also, remember we talked about the most common of the football scores, scoregami, and the Carolina Panthers were the home team. I had some confusion. I was thinking the Giants were the home team at one point of that game, but I picked on the air the Carolina Panthers to win that game. But um, yeah, Giants home team 20, away team 17. If we had picked that score, that would have been our second uh, correct score if we had picked that score for every game, as Greg Easterbrook once said, if you're going to pick, you'll get the most right if you pick home team 20, away team 17. It's
This
uh,
week you would have gotten two correct picks exact.
oh
Because
yes,
the New Orleans Atlanta
New
game,
Orleans, Atlanta.
home team 20, road team 17, also matched that score.
I was on the big board as well. I swept. I ended up getting that game. New Orleans was 3.5 point underdogs. They won that game outright. I picked that as an upset outright win. So that was another one. So I'm doing well with the home team 20, away team 17 games.
That looks like a trend almost.
Yeah. So anyway, back to this Giants Carolina game. It seems like Bryce Young has been doing better as in his second stint. Now Carolina is has won 2 games in a row, I believe. So it's a real winning streak for them. The Giants are continuing their floundering season. Hard to tell who's been. Well, I guess the Jets have probably been more disappointing than the Giants. Nobody thought really the Giants were going to be that good, but uh,
Yeah.
not too much fun in New York. Uh,
But did that victory lead to any firings or benchings though, Mike? As it did the week before, and New Orleans head coach was relieved of his duties
yeah, Brian Dable is
after the Carolina
still.
loss.
Yeah, Brian
Daniel
Dable.
is Daniel
Still,
Jones still starting this week, or as
I
a
believe Daniel Jones is still starting. Is he not? I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard that he's not, so I assume there were
Yeah.
no repercussions. I thought maybe Carolina was going to go on a stretch of them, you know, getting players and coaches managed to fire.
Not this time.
No,
Um, but yeah, speaking of coaches getting fired, New Orleans, they had their patented fired coach dead cat bounce against that seems to against the Falcons. So um,
which you called.
I called, but I did not call on the big board. So, but I couldn't fit so I knew I had a lot of wins that I knew were going to happen, but I couldn't fit them all in the locks of the week. I could only fit three,
Yes.
and
I think you talked about it on air last week, but it wasn't high enough on your list to make your lock. Anyway.
no,
Yeah.
it was a instead of a lock, it might have been a tied knot of the week, something like that. You would have had to untie a
Some some other kind of fastener,
fastener. Yeah,
a somewhat
safe,
loose snap,
yeah, safety pin clip, maybe a chip clip.
or one of those weird like manila envelopes with the
Ooh, yeah, with
little
the
string with the
strings
you
that
like
you
tie
go all the
around
way.
tie around the post.
Yeah, do you have a when you tie those around? Do you have a specific pattern you go in, or do you kind of go randomly?
Oh,
Do you make a figure eight,
uh,
or do you kind of do the loop around, then a figure eight, then another loop or something?
I think I kind of do the figure eights. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't do those enough to like maybe have a strict pattern to follow. Maybe.
I think some people do figure eights, all of them, but sometimes I will do just a round
Yeah.
because you don't need to do the figure eight, but you want a little bit of figure. It feels like it gives you a stronger seal, even though I don't think it necessarily does, but it makes it a
Right. I
little
mean, people don't usually like, go along and like try to cut the string or anything. So
more.
maybe I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the level of security required for those. So it seems kind of ridiculous.
I'm looking up manila envelope string fastener. Let's see if there's any.
Most of them just have like a single post. You've got the ones with like the two posts. Then is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or they have the ones with the Brad in them that
Yeah.
fold down.
Yeah.
They're called button and string envelopes, or maybe string and washer envelopes. I've seen them called. Now, string and washer envelopes.
Yeah, so I think we've got our tiers. We've got the locks of the week, and then we have the string and washer fastener
Yeah,
envelope of the week. Somewhere in there. That's like your fourth and fifth picks, maybe. Is that you think
yeah,
that's what that should
yeah.
be?
They're also the clasp uh, mailing envelopes, which is the one with the Brad that's been kind of in there. But yeah, the string and wash. We'll call it the strings and washers are our second string locks of the week. Uh,
Yes, I like it.
so that would have been on that one. Um,
Yeah.
how about you? So you finished, I believe, was it 2-1 this week?
I
One,
finished
one.
2-0-1
Two
this
zero
time.
and 1. What was your push? We'll get that out of the way.
So I had Detroit -3 at Houston, and Detroit managed to
Somehow.
survive. What was it, a five interception game from Jared Goff? Uh, ended up surviving by kicking a late field goal to win. I believe that was 23-20.
Yeah, it just barely went through.
Yeah, or 26-23 was the final
26-23, yeah.
score.
It
And
almost hit it
which
almost hit
was
the
which
upright.
was the 3-point spread, so that ended up being a push. My second week in a row with a push.
They said on the announcers, I think, believe said if it had another coat of paint on the goalposts, it perhaps would have glanced off, and who knows what would have happened. It was like that close from hitting the upright.
Yeah,
It's on the left upright as you're facing it, the left upright. Um, yeah, yeah. Jared
so
Goff
good.
had been completing like 80 something percent of his passes the last few weeks, but this time he completed five passes to the other team, and
Yeah,
somehow the Texans still lost that game. Was that a game that
right.
you think the Lions showed mettle, or was it that the Texans kind of blew it and showed that they weren't maybe the playoff team that people thought they were going in?
Yeah, I think when things are not going your way, they sometimes you have games like this, and they just continue to really not go your way. And I think that's where the Texans are right now. Uh,
Was it
Detroit
the
had
Jets?
been playing really well and were kind of blowing everybody apart basically,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden I think they'd only Goff had only thrown maybe four picks on the season. I think going into that game, and then like I look as a season total +1 in a single game. A lot of them were deflections and weird sort of plays, but still 5 picks is a lot
Yeah.
for a single game. So I do think it's more of I think it was more of Houston being in a bit of a rut, and it sort of looked like they maybe found a way to lose rather than we're beaten anyway. Is that kind of what you were thinking too, or
Yeah, I
did you
think
feel
so too. Um, so starting with on Detroit's winning streak, uh, Jared Goff, his worst statistical game was 18. His worst statistical output was 18 out of 23 passing. Uh, when he won 2013 over the Cardinals. He was then 18 of 18, 18 of 25, 22 of 25, 12 of 15, and 18 out of 22. And then he was 15 out of 30 with five picks and two touchdown passes. But
well, so the most incompletions he had was five, I think you said in that stretch.
yes, he had seven incompletions
Oh,
in
seven.
against the Dallas Cowboys. But that was a game. They were 18. He threw for 315 yards, three touchdowns. He had
Wow.
153.7 quarterback rating
Wow.
um, in that game. So he was pretty good. Um,
Pretty good.
he
As the
played,
kids say. Pretty
yes,
good.
he's playing in that Lions offense that seems to be really good. They have a good running game, good wide receivers. I don't think Goff is doing anything spectacular, but he's able to distribute the ball and get it to the receivers when necessary. So he's really this has been his best season, even with that five pick game. But yeah, the Lions. Uh, I don't know. Is it more improbable to win a game on a blocked field goal or more improbable to win a game where you have five interceptions in the game? I guess the interceptions all came in the first half, so uh,
Yeah,
which makes it
which which in itself hugely improbable.
yeah.
Just to throw five picks isn't that easy. So, you know, most of the time the ball's gonna, if gets tipped, it's gonna find the turf one way or another some of those times, right?
Yeah.
But none of those times did it find the turf. So yeah, that's I mean, you have to have so many things go wrong to have five picks, but only, one thing has to go right on a single blocked field goal attempt, I guess. So I think improbably, I think you've got more chances for things to go wrong when you have more things going wrong.
Okay.
So no, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's even an answer to the question you asked.
It's okay. We can move on. They were both improbable. We'll say in their own ways. Unique,
Yes,
just as if you're saying if you're a parent with two children, you love them both, but they're in different ways. Equally,
but but still equally.
yes. At least if you're a good parent, you would say that.
Yes.
If you're
Yeah.
Johnny Cash's dad, you would say the wrong kid died. But or I guess that was more walk. That was more what was the Dewey Cox story. Uh,
Right.
but it was based on the Johnny Cash uh, story, I think.
It
Maybe,
it
maybe also,
was.
maybe also, what'd you say?
It was.
Yeah, it's like maybe also the Ray Charles one. I don't remember if Ray Charles had a little brother who died as well.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, that was anyway. We won't talk about walk hard as much as much as some shows might talk about that. Uh, I had mentioned the New York football being not so wonderful to watch. The Jets um, had come off a victory against those Texans. It looks like maybe they were turning things around, but no. And much to our glee, the Jets lost to the Cardinals, which for some reason were 1.5 point underdogs at home against the Jets. And uh,
yeah.
the Jets scored a grand total of 6 points and allowed 31 points to the Cardinals. So the Cardinals, so instead of being 1.5, so the Cardinals beat that spread by almost 27 points. So it was I don't
Yeah.
know, I don't know who was betting on that game, thinking the Jets were going to go. That just seemed like it was easy money to take, and uh, that's what I took. And Jets lost big. Cardinals won big. Cardinals are now the leaders in the NFC West, 6-4. Kyler Murray's been playing really well lately. Are the Cardinals? Do you think they're a playoff team this year?
I don't know that I'd go that far. Like, I think San Francisco is probably going to end up winning the division eventually. Like, they seem to be possibly coming together a bit now. So I wouldn't expect them to hang on, but they're having a much better season than I think we expected, or probably most people expected at least anyway. I think we didn't pick them to have anywhere. Maybe they may already be past their win total that we projected before the season started.
Let's
It's
see.
gonna be
What is
somewhere in that area, isn't it?
um, we picked? Well, the Cardinals were both 7.5 was over under, and we both picked them at 7 wins. So we picked them a 7-10 team. So not, but just still possible. They're 6-4 right now. So.
They don't
Uh,
have one more win they can get before they need to shut it down for our
yeah,
picks.
we predicted the Cardinals and the Seahawks to both tie and for third place in the NFC West at 7-10. We actually both predicted the Los Angeles Rams to be 10-7. And we both predicted the San Francisco 49ers to be 12-5. So we'll see. That's probably San Francisco would have to go on a tear to be 12-5. They could if you only lose one more game, I think,
Yeah,
coming now, and then I guess the Cardinals would have to go on a real losing streak to be below 7. So it's probably not going to work out. But um,
yeah.
the
But I know on air last week, we both questioned the spread. of the line that was given anyway, with the Jets being favored. And the line didn't move either. Like up until game time, it was still Jets favored by 1.5. Are you surprised that the fans, the betters, didn't shift the line towards Arizona?
Yeah, I wonder if it was like just because a lot of New York bettors maybe bet on the Jets, and it's a big market, and the Cardinals are not a very popular team to bet on. Maybe
Probably.
I guess that's the only reason, or maybe there was some. I don't know. Maybe there's some people thought they had inside information that the Jets were going to turn things around with Rodgers, and um, that didn't happen. So
Well, that
Jets
week
still, I
before
believe,
game
are in the
was.
playoff race. It seems like in the AFC, six teams basically have locks on playoff positions, and there's a race for the seventh position, and Denver is currently holding that seventh playoff spot. But Cincinnati, Indianapolis, the Jets are all technically in that race. Even the Raiders, I think, are technically in that race. So um, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens and the Steelers and even the Chargers now are pretty much not quite. Chargers are not quite locks, but those other four teams are pretty much locks. It seems like for the playoffs, and that's a little unusual to have that race sewn up so early. Um,
Yeah, like the Bills already have a 4.5 game lead over the Dolphins, which seems shocking to be that far ahead.
yeah, I think I
3-10
saw
versus three and
the
six.
Bills and the Chiefs have 99.9% chances at the playoffs already. I think the Chiefs could even lose out and still possibly be in the playoffs, given how bad some of these other teams have been in the tie-breaking procedures. So
But let's not test that, okay?
no, let's not. It would be interesting. That would be like if Mahomes. Like, it would be like if Mahomes got hurt and then
I don't think you should even mention that as a possibility, Mike.
uh, and then Wentz got
It's
hurt,
risky.
and then it was like Chris Oladokun as quarterback probably, with Kingsley Suamataia as the left tackle. And just
Yeah. So they've talked about bringing Donovan back in.
Donovan
Is that
Smith, yeah.
still a possibility?
I don't think at this point it's probably likely, but who knows? The Chiefs like to bring people back, so
It's already happened a couple times this year.
yeah, and they're bringing, people are coming back that have already come back, like Juju's coming back and he's already been back, but uh,
Yes.
and
The re-coming backening, something like that.
yes, yes, that sounds like a movie, this Andrew Scaff story.
No, I don't know if I want that associated with
How
my
about
name.
the speaking of coming back? How did your third lock go?
I had one of the teams you just mentioned anyway, for my third pick. I had Buffalo at minus 4.5 at Indianapolis, and Buffalo ended up winning relatively handily in that game. It was 30-20, so 10-point win. Yeah, easily covering that 4.5 point spread. I didn't really follow that game too much, Mike. Do you have any notes on that one?
It was Joe Flacco, but now it seems like the Indianapolis Colts have taken a turn and they're going back to Anthony Richardson. So I guess they feel like they can lose games. If they can lose games with Flacco, they think they wanted Flacco in because they thought there was going to be a better chance of going to the playoffs with Flacco. But now, since they're losing games with Flacco, they might as well lose those games and develop a quarterback. So I think that's what they're doing with Anthony Richardson to see even if he's going to be healthy enough to last a whole season, or if maybe the Colts might need to go back to the drawing board at quarterback and pick somebody else or get a younger free agent because I think this is going to be Flacco's last year probably. He's as old
Probably.
as he's 40, I think, isn't he? Or 30, he's as old as Aaron Rodgers,
Yeah.
just about. So
Or do you think it was more that maybe the Indianapolis thought that they weren't going to be able to win against Buffalo? So then maybe they thought they'd have, instead of having Anthony Richardson like damage his ego even more by getting like destroyed by Buffalo, that they would, let him sit, maybe watch a more professional quarterback,
handle
uh, see how they handle it, maybe you can learn from that, and then come back in against somewhat weaker opponent the next week because we don't have to play Buffalo 2 weeks in a row. So is that you think maybe it was a little bit of that too? I mean, that's a secondary objective out of that.
I think if you assumed competent ownership and uh, competent coaching, and both of those working together, maybe that would be something. But I think we know there's not. I don't know. I think that maybe competent coaching, we're not quite sure. Shane Steichen he's decent probably, but I think we know that Jim Irsay is not a competent owner, and the fact that just a couple of years ago he brought in Jeff Saturday for some reason to coach the team from out of the blue. So I think this is ownership fickleness. I think they remember, I think we had talked about this was last year when Richardson was the starter from day one. When I think we both thought he was a developmental quarterback and he should
For
not be
sure.
starting in week one. He should maybe sit out a year plus, like something like Jordan Love has done, and somebody who's still a raw prospect, and so sitting is actually good for him, and it seems it seems like he's taken a step back this year, even though from what we even saw of him last year. So I don't know about
Yeah.
I don't know if they meant that they thought, oh, you're probably going to lose to Buffalo. Let's not bruise his ego by giving him another loss and bruise his ribs by getting him more and more injured as the season goes on. It's yeah, I don't know if they thought that far ahead. I think the
No.
ownership, I think maybe it was coaching that put Flacco in, and it's ownership, I think, that's putting Richardson back in. That's my theory anyway.
I mean, that seems like a reasonable assumption, actually. So, being outsiders, we don't know what's going on
No,
within the franchise. That seems like a very reasonable,
yeah.
you know, assessment as to what's going on there.
Well, speaking of reasonable assessments, my third lock of the week was the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Washington Commanders. Pittsburgh was at Washington. They were 2.5 point underdogs. I predicted them to cover that spread and actually win outright, and they did both of those. It was a fairly close, very competitive game, but Pittsburgh ended up winning 28-27. So they won by 1 point. That was a very close game. But the Steelers also had the ball at the end of that game, so they could have scored another field goal if they had wanted to tack on more points or another touchdown even. So it had a bit of a Chiefs ending to it, since Washington had already failed on fourth down, and the Steelers had the ball and were moving the football, or could have if they had chosen to. So. Um,
Didn't they end up having a fourth down scenario where they ended up doing a hard count and getting a defensive player to
yes,
jump off?
yes,
Yeah.
that's a very Chiefs kind of walk-off win.
Yes. Like on a technicality,
Yeah.
sort of not like gaming the system necessarily, but basically gaming the system,
But
right?
knowing that they could outclass the other side in a crucial moment, I think that was what
Yeah.
um, Pittsburgh did there. So that concludes our locks of the week. What is that? I believe we have an interesting um, season total now for our locks of the week. So we've had 10 weeks, 30 total, I believe. I am
Yes.
now 17-13. Is that right?
That's right. Now
Yeah.
plus $400
But
after having been something like 2-9
I
or
was
two
two
and
and
ten or something.
I was 2-11. I was 2-10 at one point, I believe, or something like that. It was pretty bad. I was 2-7 for sure. Then I might have gone over 3. Um,
Yeah, you would have been 2-10 after week 4.
yeah. So that means I am 15 and
Yes. Six,
3,
six,
15 and 3 in my
16 of
last
your last. Oh no, yeah.
15 in my last 18,
Yeah,
15
there
and
you go.
3 in my last locks of the week. So those have been pretty good locks. You've been pretty
Yeah.
solid all the way through, and now you are also up $400, I believe. You're 16, 12, and 2. Those two pushes
That's
are
right. That's right. The two pushes have kept us even then.
yes.
You have one more win, but Well, we are tied on the season in dollars.
If this were soccer, I would have the advantage because of 3 points for a win. But in hockey, we would be the same with the 2 point win system.
We're going off of like dollars, so
I guess hockey now has
it's
overtime
okay.
losses, which instead of ties. Um,
Right. Yes.
or in the learned league system, we'd also be tied.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, any other observations from the week at large? We both ended up winning on the big board.
Hmm. Yes. Although in very different ways again, I believe.
Yes. The unders came through for me. The unders were 10 of the 14 games went under their total. So I picked straight unders as I've been doing the last several weeks. And so I was 10 out of 14 for the under. So I won $502 on my under bets. Whereas you were 4 and 10. You didn't pick all overs, but you picked you picked enough that you might as well have picked all overs last week.
I could
Um,
have.
and you
It would
lost
have
six
fared exactly the same.
you
Yes.
lost $639 on your over unders, but you were made up for it on your spreads and your money line picks,
Mostly on the money line. I went, yeah, 12 out of 14 on the money line.
including
So,
a lot of upsets. Yeah, so that was
yeah, I
um,
called four of the upsets of the week, which is pretty solid.
yeah,
And the two games I missed were upsets that you picked though, Mike. So together we got every game, we had a correct pick and every money line.
yes. So we're quite the prognosticators.
Yeah. So
We ended up
if you bet both of all of our picks, then you would have gotten a win in every game. That's
yes, we ended
you'd
up
have lost
the
you'd have lost some of them too, but
yeah, we probably would have lost. Yeah, we ended up both winning money on the week as a whole. You were up $427. I was up about $1,060, uh, which also created an interesting scenario because I ended up passing you on the big board money line. I have and I went into positive territory for the first time, I believe, this year. So I'm up $250 total from week one for the first 10 weeks. You also went into positive territory again. You had been down for a little while. You're plus $73. So
I'd spent most of the year in positive territory, then dipped under, I think, two
yeah.
weeks ago, and now back in positive territory. I believe this is the first time we've ever both been in positive territory.
Yes, I believe so because I think I've started out even after week one, I've always been in the hole. So I'm continuing my ascent. We'll see how long that lasts. What goes up must come down, apparently, but not yet.
Correct.
So
But one other surprising stat, though, now through 10 weeks, Mike, we've each made on the big board 454 picks across all the games for the 10 weeks. You and I are now exactly tied on the season for number of correct picks. Both have exactly 254 correct picks for
nice,
56% winning percentage on our bets. Exactly tied.
exactly tied.
Are you
Uh,
surprised to see it being tied with that many
yeah,
correct ones?
that's the odds are stacked against that one for sure. But that
Yeah.
154, that's yeah, you know,
And we're not really picking that many of the same games. It's not like I mean, we have bets in every all of the same games, but our picks are rarely shared like across, the
yeah.
individual game or
I
like
would say
say
our money line picks are more or less similar, are pretty similar, but
closer to in line.
but I guess that's because most games you have we pick favorites usually.
Yeah.
We pick occasional underdogs. Um,
This
but
week we only like seven of the same picks on the money line out of 14 games. So it's not like we picked,
yeah,
12 or 13 the same, right? It was just only half. So that
yeah,
was pretty impressive. But after this many games,
yeah, and we
this many
got
picks
between the
in
two of
the
us, like you said, we picked all the upsets too. There were several upsets last week.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I had four. You got the other two
Yeah, because
plus
you picked New England
one.
actually to beat Chicago, which was the biggest upset win of the week, and I picked the Giants over Carolina, which is the second biggest upset win of the week. So, um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think last week, I think you had the biggest upset pick last week. I thought you
yes,
had
I
one that
had
was pretty good.
Carolina defeating New Orleans, so I
Yeah,
picked
so
Carolina
that was
twice in a row.
plus 275.
We'll see what I do with Carolina this week, but they have a bye, so I couldn't.
Probably not putting a lot of money on Carolina this week, unless you found some bookmaker that was willing to take Carolina doesn't lose this week at
Yes, an
something very high.
unsuspecting bookmaker. Yes. Um, So speaking of the unsuspecting bookmaker, the it appears that this coming week, the Chiefs are going to be underdogs in their game against the Buffalo Bills. Um, when we first, I believe, saw the bets, it was Chiefs were 1.5 point underdogs. Now they are 2.5 point underdogs. It seems like perhaps because of Harrison Butker's injury, um, the Chiefs picked up Spencer Schrader from the New York Jets. To become their new place kicker. Are you worried that Butker's injury will cause the Chiefs to falter in a key spot? Butler's been pretty clutch when it comes to field goals this year, or will any generic kicker do?
Well, I think they'd probably be more willing to go for fourth and shorts in the that extended field goal range that they would normally throw Butker out in.
Mhm.
The 50 plus yard. They probably won't allow that scenario to come up would be my guess. I think they'd probably be a little, freer with leaving Mahomes out there for one more play, be what I would guess to see.
Analytically, you would say that's usually the right move, so maybe it would benefit the Chiefs if they went for it more
Okay.
on fourth down. And this is because the Chiefs have been so good on third and fourth down. I think
Yeah.
Mahomes is leading the league in quarterback rating and efficiency on third and fourth down. He's been below average on first and second down, but when in the downs that count, he's been really good. So
Yeah.
maybe it'll be a benefit actually for the Chiefs. Um,
Well, it might take away some of that sort of maybe fallback game planning where you allow it like, well, I'm not gonna, try to go like anything too risky just because we know we can still, kick that field goal
just
from
Bucker to make a
6
55
yards.
yarder or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and so instead we'll like, well, let's make sure we get this 3 yard play to go and not put ourselves in that circumstance. So that's my hope, at least anyways, that they will be a little, less willing to fall back on something that they think is safe. But it seems like Raider Schrader Schra- what's what
Schrader, Schrader,
Schrader.
Spencer Schrader.
Yeah. Has been pretty solid though so far. He has kicked in a couple of games so far this year.
He's kicked one game for the Colts and then one game for the Jets, and he hasn't missed a kick. So he's been 3 for 3 on extra points, 2 for 2 out of field goals. So he actually kicked for the Jets this past week in their 31-6 loss. He was the 6 points. So
And they let him go. See, that's
well, apparently the Chiefs offered him. He was a practice squad, and the Jets had also offered him a spot on the 53-man roster. But the Chiefs, he decided to take the Chiefs' 53-man roster spot over the Jets, even though apparently Bucker is maybe only going to be out 4 weeks, but he wanted, I guess, to be on a potential playoff team.
yeah.
So that was the pick.
Third team in one season seems pretty crazy to even have the opportunity to play for three different teams in 1 year is a
For
little bit nuts.
those wondering, Anders Carlson is going to be the Jets kicker going forward.
Oh.
He's on the practice squad right now.
So they had multiple practice squad kickers.
Yeah, I think probably they brought in. Well, Anders Carlson may have been on 3 or 4 teams this year already too. I'm gonna look him up on Pro Football Reference right now.
Is that a name I should know?
Anders Carlson. Well, he was the Green Bay kicker last year. He is the brother of the Raiders kicker. Daniel Carlson.
Hmm.
I believe it's Daniel Carlson. Yeah, Daniel Carlson. Anders Carlson has kicked so far this year. Oh, he kicked a couple games for the 49ers, so this is only his second team this
Okay.
year. He kicked for Green Bay last year.
There's still time though. It's only
I guess he
what?
was probably with Green Bay in the preseason, but got cut or something. He actually kicked against the Chiefs. Anders Carlson kicked against the Chiefs in the summer in the game that the Chiefs ended up winning against the 49ers. He actually missed an extra point. I
Hmm.
you remember that game. But
Yes.
so anyway, Spencer Schrader, former this is his first season. Notre Dame. He went to Notre Dame and I think South Florida or Central Florida before that. So we'll see what happens with him. Um, Juju Smith-Schuster. So we have S the S alliterative players coming in for the Chiefs this week against Buffalo. The Chiefs are 2.5 point underdogs. I don't know. I don't think is that game part of your locks of the week going into week 11, Dr.
It
Scaff?
it is.
What is your maybe we can segue into our locks of the week. What is your lock when it comes to are you doing the spread or are you doing an over under perhaps?
I'm going with the spread in this one. It's close enough. The Chiefs are the underdogs that like I think there's this chance anyway. I still, after watching the last game and the block kick, that first, gut reaction thought was that they're a team of destiny at this point. So if I truly believe that, then I'm picking them all day long on being an underdog. So
Are we going with the plus
I
one
think
and a
it's
half
safe.
they were a couple days ago? Or are we going with the plus 2.5 that they are right now?
So I made the pick at +1.5. I'm gonna stick. I guess I'll have to stick with that. I already made the pick, I guess. So
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
gonna I'm not
We'll
gonna
stay what we
shift
can.
the line with shift my bet with the line, I guess. But yeah, for this case,
Good.
plus
Okay.
one and a half.
Probably that's the marquee game probably of the week is Chiefs um, Bills. Probably the second biggest matchup of the week is the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Baltimore Ravens divisional matchup. Um, I picked Pittsburgh at plus 2.5 over Washington last week. Pittsburgh is 3 point underdogs at home against the Ravens, and historically the Steelers have played the Ravens very well. They actually swept the series last year, I believe. Although the second game, I think, was when the Ravens had guaranteed the #1 playoff seed, so they didn't really matter. It didn't really matter to them. But
Yeah.
the Steelers still won. But they won the game at home earlier in the season against the Ravens. And so I think Pittsburgh plays against Lamar Jackson very well. Their defense is swarming. The Steelers have also had a pretty good offense against every team that they've played since Russell Wilson's comeback to the team. So. I I picked the Steelers at +3 over Baltimore. I actually think the Steelers will probably win outright. At least that's my hope. They will win outright. Um, I guess it might technically help the Chiefs a little bit more if the Steelers lost. It would give them 3 losses, and Baltimore also 3 losses.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs do play the Steelers down the road on Christmas Day, as we talked about on Netflix, which we'll see if it's not buffering. We might be able to watch. Uh,
At least some
but
of it.
yeah,
Live even, perhaps.
perhaps live, yes, or buffered live. So Steelers +3 over Baltimore is my first lock of the week. It's not even what was the envelope called? It was a string and washer
Yes.
lock. So this is
Yes.
an actual stable metal locking lock of the week.
Yes. Possibly requires a key.
Yes, a key or at least a
Maybe,
combination.
yeah. Not a skeleton key, but
Maybe a fingerprint, uh,
oh,
ret
biometrics.
retinal scan.
Wow.
What is the
Those
advantage of
are
a retinal scan over a fingerprint?
I think it's harder to copy a retinal scan.
Well, you'd have to rip out somebody's eyes rather than just cut somebody's
Yeah, I
thumb off.
mean, they
Is
do
that
that
the
in
difference?
movies all the time. I mean, that's like the most common way to. to break a
Yeah.
biometric lock is to just, take whatever body part is required for the combination, right? So it's in like every heist movie
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little grosser to take the eyes off somebody than it is to take the thumb off somebody. So maybe that's what they're
Pretty
doing.
gross, still pretty gross.
Yeah. So that's my,
What
yeah.
are we talking about?
Well, it's 1:45 in the morning here at the East Coast
Yeah.
chapter of the Warren Sharp Power Hour. So we're getting a little bit punchy, perhaps. So we'll try to wrap up our locks and then wrap up our episode this week. So how about your second lock of the week, Dr. Scaff?
My second lock, I'm going with San Francisco at home against Seattle. San Francisco, I think now has some of their injured players have been coming back. Christian McCaffrey is back with the team. They're favored by 6.5 points, which is a little bit bigger spread than I tend to like to go with. But I don't think Seattle's been playing all that well this season. I think San Francisco can, win by a touchdown or more. So San Francisco minus 6.5 at home.
I think that's against a home game for the 49ers. I think that's a solid bet. I don't think the Seahawks are okay, but I don't think they're as good as a getting healthier 49ers team. Um,
Well, and 6.5 is a far cry from the widest spread this
of
week,
the week.
where Detroit's favored by 13.5 points. Uh, are you jumping on that game for your
They're favored
next
over
lock of the week?
Jacksonville. Jacksonville hasn't been very good. I'm not jump. It's not going to be one of my locks. I think right now I'm leaning to Jacksonville plus 13.5 just because if
Hmm.
Detroit had played better last week and won their game by more than three, and not had 5 interceptions, I maybe would have continued to ride the Detroit momentum, but I don't think Detroit is
Yeah.
quite as good as their winning streak indicated. I think maybe this is their game against the Texans is again they're good enough to be good teams, but I don't think they're the juggernaut maybe that they showed um, for that 4 or 5 week stretch there. So um, I don't know. That's a lot of points.
So not among your locks,
No,
not
no,
among your string and washer
no. It's
connections, possibly not even like a self-adhesive envelope level
it's
of confidence.
It's maybe a paperclip, uh,
Ooh, that's not a lot of confidence.
a staple. Maybe it's a 20-page stapler on a 25-page report where you can they're barely stick the tongs of the staple are barely sticking through the
Yeah, but they haven't like fully like made that turn around the corner, but
yeah,
they're still
yes.
sort of like
They're still
vertical.
pretty straight. Or maybe one has made a little bit of it, but the other one is still uh
Wow,
straight.
that's
I
that doesn't
actually
sound that doesn't sound like a lot of confidence, Mike.
No. I actually read a interesting staple bit of trivia recently. Um,
Please.
apparently, it takes place during the Cold War. This factoid. Um, so the most staples in the United States are made out of and have been for years made out of stainless steel because you
Yes,
don't want your staples to rust. Uh,
everyone knows that.
but in the former communist Eastern Bloc, their staples were made out of just regular steel, and they rusted. And apparently, there would be staples in people in like passports and government documents and
Hmm.
things like that. So when
Or they might
America,
collect a bit of moisture, maybe like in a pocket or
yeah,
the
or just
rain, something like that.
yeah, the cold Russian winter, and apparently some of the American spies in the Eastern
Oh
Bloc
no.
were caught because there's staples on their documents that did not have any rust on them. So they were shown to be American staples. I don't know if that's an old wide. I don't know if that's a kind of a you know fairy tale or if that's actually what happened. But that's what I read that the non-rusting staples gave away some of our
Wow.
undercover agents.
And their forged documents.
Yeah, in their forged documents. Yeah.
Wow. 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 And you have to
You
be
won't
very
hear that on
thorough
any other
with
sports
your
show.
spying, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah.
A rare factoid, yes, for for a sports podcast.
Talk
Indeed.
about staples. Yes. Um, so speaking of staples, I think my my next I couldn't find any other point spreads that I really liked this week. This week was hard, so I decided to go to the over/unders and like as our astute viewers know that I've been going with the blanket under on all of my picks the last several weeks. So I'm continuing that this week, but I'm also going to put a couple of those unders in my locks of the week. Um, my first under lock of the week is going to be the Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. 40 and a half. It's pretty low total, is the over under. But I think it's going to be under that because simply because Chicago has had trouble scoring points. I don't think with Caleb Williams is rattled, I think. I don't think the team is very supportive of him right now. And I think the coaching staff has had some changes. Their offensive coordinator, I believe, has been fired and replaced. So I think it'll be a low scoring game. And then they lost last week to New England 19-3, so that was only a 22-point total, and they only
Yeah.
scored three of it. So I think Green Bay is a better team than New England is by far, and I think Green Bay will go into Chicago and win. But I don't think Chicago will score very many points. So I think this is like a 24-7 type of game I'm seeing with Green Bay winning. So. Or maybe it's even closer. Maybe Green Bay doesn't carry the spread. Maybe it's a 14-10 game or something like that even.
Yeah.
So I like Green Bay to win, but the I like the under 40 and a half even better. So I'll do Green Bay, Chicago under 40 and a half.
And that always seems safe to do something like that if you think the one of the teams has basically no offense. And
Mhm.
yeah, because you're not, you don't assume that Green Bay is going to, score 30 plus. So that seems really safe if you don't think that this is
Yeah,
scenario
I
is going
don't
to
think they will. I think Green Bay might win easily, but they also might be in a dogfight, in a low scoring dogfight. And I could also maybe see like they could be like sort of a dead cat bounce with Chicago scoring more points. Maybe they'll score 17 and keep it close. But I still like the under four since it's over 40 points. It's not like it's a 35 point
Yeah.
um, over under. So it's low, but it's not an ugly low over under. I think the lowest over under it is actually the lowest over under of the weekend. 40 and a half right now. So
There is
let's
another
another
that matches
Minnesota
it, but I
Minnesota
didn't mean,
Tennessee is also for that's an ugly game
yeah.
too. Um, I don't know what I'm not quite sure. That might be one of my I pick under there. That might be one of my string and washer blocks of the week, but it's not. I'm not confident enough for it to be, or it's a comfortable staple. Maybe I'll say that.
That actually worked, like a two-page staple.
Yeah. Or yeah, or a Brad through a pull, through a a 3-hole punched set of papers. A single Brad. I'm not gonna say triple Brad. I'll do a single Brad. Uh,
Triple Brad would be pretty confident.
yeah,
That's up there.
and that's the format that most Hollywood screenplays still are used is the triple Brad. I've read that screenplay writers, even if it's they don't mind getting a little blood on their hands if they get pricked by the Brads. That's not seen as a bad thing in the world of the Hollywood screenplay.
We have all kinds of fastener related trivia today.
It really has been.
We're gonna have to add that as a hashtag for this week's
Hashtag.
podcast.
Yeah.
Hashtag fastener trivia.
Passenger trivia. Yes. Well, what's your triple Brad lock
Hmm.
of the week? Or maybe you'll have a padlock running through each of the uh, holes of a.
Well,
But
what about those, like those rings that have the little, like that like, you have to like fold over onto each other, but they like lock in place then.
Yeah, like in a
They
three-ring
put
binder.
around like around larger punched like the three hole punches, but
Yeah,
like bread with like the
but not
rings.
attached to a binder, just the rings.
Yes, the ring itself. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
sometimes
a
you'll see
loose ring.
loose rings.
It's my next pick is somewhere above that level, but below below the master. Like still, it's gonna be in the
But
lock.
when you
It's
get
gonna
to
be
the
locked.
paper, though,
It's
it's
still
easy to
locks.
you can just tear the paper out, and then
Yeah,
even if the lock is still tight, you can just tear the paper.
it's still defeated.
That's why
It's
you would need some sort of front and backing on the paper, maybe a
you know
stiff cardboard or something like that.
we need like a rivet press or something, right? To
Ooh, the rivet that was a whole
you know,
a punch like a tool and die kind of punch
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
a punch press maybe. Yeah.
yeah. Maybe this is somewhere in that category. Right. But for my next pick, I'm going with a little bit different strategy. This will be my first over under pick since week 6, Mike. You surprised I've gone that long between making an over under pick.
I
Avoiding
I am
entirely
surprised.
spreads.
I think this week though is not good for spreads. I think it's an unpredictable week. So on the spread front, I think also maybe we could say maybe Vegas has made the spreads a little bit tougher to get this week than sometimes. There haven't been there haven't been a lot of obvious, like the Jets plus 1.5s on the road. There haven't been like there haven't been very many bad teams favored on the road against some other team, it seems like, and that's um, what we've been going for lately.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just curious to check too, see what the over under numbers were for the week. They're exactly the same as they were last week, like to many decibels. For the over under. That's the average over under for the week. Week 10 was 45.14285714. This week it is exactly that same decimal, Mike.
Wow.
So so there's
I guess
that.
there are exactly 14 games and four buys, and so the over under totals add up to the same.
Must be the exact same
At least
total.
at least as of now, they might adjust as it
Yeah.
gets closer. So
But
um,
which was quite high, 45 over 45 points.
mhm.
Last week the unders were solid victors, 10 and 4. Uh, so I too am picking an under. I'm following your trend here. I'm picking an under in the Raiders Dolphins game. I don't think either team has a lot of offense at this point. I think maybe Tua's maybe coming around a bit, but I don't think the Raiders have much of an offense. The Raiders defense is actually fairly solid too, so I'm expecting a fairly low scoring game there. Over under number for that game is 44 and a half.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm gonna pick the under as my one of my blanket unders. So
I just wanted you to agree with me, so I picked an under. Does that seem
yeah,
fair?
I'm gonna agree with every under. Uh, I have a very similar under Atlanta at Denver, another AFC West uh, game, and featuring a Southern team that is what would have been favored maybe a couple weeks ago. Now Atlanta is 2.5 point underdogs at Denver, the way Denver's been playing lately. But uh, I think there's a 44.5 over under there too. I think Denver's defense is really good. I think they can hold Atlanta down. I would say Denver minus 2.5. I think since I think Denver can win by a field goal at least. Um,
At home. That's not a
um,
crazy guess.
Even with Bo Nix's letter shortage in his name, it seems like he's coming along decently as a quarterback. He doesn't make a lot of bad throws. He doesn't make a lot of great throws, but he doesn't make a lot of bad throws either. So
Hmm.
it's a defensively oriented team, so he keeps the team in the games. I think Atlanta has cooled off a bit. They lost to New Orleans last week. You know, I don't. they're maybe still the class of the South NFC South, but that's not saying a whole lot. So I see that as a low this is a low scoring game. Maybe something like 20-14 Denver victory. So that would be under. That would be a 34. So that would be 10 and a half points under. So I like the under 44 and a half. Because you think that I would think that the Raiders Dolphins game, at least, I guess you would say the Atlanta might have a high scoring offense and maybe Denver too, but I think I think it's going to be a defensive struggle. Um, and maybe by this point the weather might affect the warm weather domed um, team on the road. So the altitude. So I like Denver to hold Atlanta low, and that'll keep the under 44 and a half.
And what level of clasp or locking mechanism are you putting on this game, Mike?
I'm putting on a standard um, master lock key or combo. Something you maybe like you would lock your storage unit locker with. So
Nice.
a standard. And I'm not going overboard on this one.
Well,
I don't have
well,
any
lock.
biometric locks or any um, two key
That's
turning simultaneous nuclear code type
ooh.
locks.
You need a second like-minded person
Yes, we don't have
just
to
to
have
activate it.
unanimity to open it, or somehow, and also where one person with two keys could not reach and turn them both at the same time.
Even
That
with freakishly large wingspan.
Yes, you would need, yeah, not even Victor Wembanyama uh, would be able to open this one. That's a bridge too far. This is just a standard key lock or a standard combination lock. Three number combination, not any tricky thing like that.
But
It's a
also
little
but also far above like a two dog-eared pages in a row.
yes, even more than a briefcase lock. Most briefcase locks are usually they don't you don't usually rotate the little drums. Kind of keep them in the same place because you don't want to freak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have time for this.
yeah,
I'm not gonna rotate that lock. Come on. It's three numbers. I don't want to remember three numbers.
yeah. Three numbers between 1 and 10, and then on each side you might have to remember your own combination if it's because you can always get that slightly off too if you set it,
Yeah.
and then it's hard to open. So you might
Yeah.
as well just use the factory settings and just not deal with it.
But would you agree though, the weakest form of security though is the just the
Two
two
document pages.
dog-eared pages, two consecutive dog-eared pages.
Without the tear that keeps it a little bit
Right.
together.
Right.
Yeah, it's a fold over, yeah. Uh,
Yes.
or maybe a rock on top of the paper to keep it from blowing off the desk. A paper, a crude paperweight.
So are there any games on the schedule that you're so not confident in that you would give it that two dog-eared pages lock
Um,
level of security, Mike? The very light paperweight. Any other games we're not betting on this week that are
that Cincinnati Chargers game is kind of getting me. Um, I I still have confidence in some ways that Cincinnati is a better team than the Chargers,
yeah
but they're 1.5 point underdogs on the road,
managed to lose a lot of games.
lose a lot of games. The Chargers defense is pretty good. So I don't know about that one. I don't know which way I'll lean on that one. I'll lean under, um, but I don't necessarily. I'm not in love with the Chargers as a solid playoff team. I think they probably will make the playoffs just because of the way the first half schedule has gone, but I don't
Yeah.
know if they're really. Ben, I think the Bengals are a better team, but I don't. I it's at Los Angeles, but home field advantage doesn't really matter there. But also, I think the Bengals fans probably won't travel as well as maybe they would if they were winning. So there might not be as many Bengals, StubHub seats sold as maybe there would have been 6 weeks ago or before earlier in the season. So
Yeah.
that's a tough game for me. It's a good game, but it's a tough game for me to pick.
I thought you were going to go to the Monday night game. Was what I was expecting you to do.
Hmm.
The battle of the two Texas teams, both
Oh,
struggling.
yeah, Houston's favored by 7.5 against a really struggling Dallas team. It's at Dallas, though. We won't have the sunlight glare that has been plaguing Jerry World in the after those late afternoon games, which Dallas usually plays, which is why they insist on having the sunlight see through. I also was reading that we talked about before we've talked about the Royals. If they build a new stadium, it has to be oriented a certain way.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, all football stadiums are oriented north south, so you don't play into the sun either way. Uh,
Hmm.
but the Cowboys Stadium is oriented basically east west. It's actually oriented a little bit um, northeast southwest, which actually plays into the sun more in the winter time, in the fall and winter time than it would otherwise. That somehow, for some reason, they dumbly built it that way, and it's been affecting the games a lot. Yes, it's diagonally like it would be like if the Royals decided to build their stadium where the batter's box faced
Straight, straight
southwest
west or something,
or
right?
straight
Yeah, yeah.
west. So like in the sun, like when they play in the summertime when they would
Yeah.
catch
The sun is like right in your eyes.
yes for the pitch. Yeah, yeah. So um,
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
yeah. I think Dallas is better than what their record indicates, but I also think Houston is not playing terribly well. It's on the road. Yeah, so I would give that. I don't know what I'm going to give that one. I think maybe it's also one of those um, paperweight or dog-eared pages. Um,
And
yeah.
it's a Cooper Rush led
Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, even if he is Cooper Rush.
possibly.
But I think Lance didn't look very good in his short stints last week. So
Yeah.
I think, or maybe it's, hiding, it's maybe just hiding something in plain sight, level of security.
Yes.
Or
I think
putting it in an envelope that's, not licked shut,
it's the non-adhesive
not adhesive.
variety of envelope. Like why do those even exist?
Yeah, it's just a folded paper.
Yeah. Not very high level security. It is a bit unfortunate for us, I think, because I think the four teams that have buys this week are teams that we tend to bet on or against with some pretty high frequency. Giants, Cardinals, Bucks, and Panthers are all off this week. Are you disappointed to see none of them in play? So you could bet against or possibly on any of those teams.
Um, yeah, I'm a little sad the Giants aren't in there. So I can always bet against them.
You've
Um,
been winning with Carolina though too.
I've been winning with Carolina lately.
That was
Arizona,
two.
I've been
That
actually
was
pretty
two
successful.
weeks in a row you won with Carolina.
Yeah, I've been winning with Carolina. I've been winning with Arizona lately too. So, um, I would have. I think I'm most disappointed that Arizona's not playing because I like the way Arizona's been playing, and I would probably bet on. I could have maybe bet on them on the spread against one of those other teams. So,
Should have a hashtag also for winning with Carolina or an Octothorpe if you prefer.
yeah, sure.
Is that not your preferred name for the hashtag?
Hashtag. I think it's what the no. What was it? What did you say?
Octothorpe.
The Octothorpe. No,
That's not
that's that's up
you're
there
not
with the
familiar with that.
that's up
You're
there
not
with
familiar with
the
that term.
that's up there with the interrobang, the exclamation point question mark single key stroke. sing sing use. I'm not that familiar with the
Hmm.
octothorpe. I guess I still call it the pound sign, uh,
Yes. All the same. Same thing.
or the number, or the tic-tac-toe.
Yeah. I don't know that I've heard people like refer to it as that though. Is that something you call it like normally
Yeah,
in public?
the tic-tac-toe symbol. Yeah,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
sharp. I guess you could call it the sharp symbol.
It is, if you're familiar with
Musical
sort of
notation. Yeah.
our yeah. Lots of sheet music readers out here, I'm sure, with our
Or
in our
sharp.
listener viewership.
Yes. Or sharp betters, at least, out there.
Nice.
Nice. Well, that's gonna be my last pun of the evening, I think. Maybe we should wrap up this week's Morning Track Power Hour. We'll discuss the week 11's games in the rear view next week, which will come back in just a couple of days' time. We'll probably be back on our normal Tuesday evening recording schedule or and Thursday release date. So you won't have much time to wait for the next Morning Track Power Hour. And so we are thankful for your viewership and your listenership and for bearing with us on this unusual week here at the Power Hour where we wanted to wait for the underwhelming Mike Tyson uh, Paul fight, but we also had some travels this week by our Warren Trek Power Hour family as well. So we ended up filming things a little bit on a different schedule than sometimes, but we're done now, and we will see you next time, or you will hear us next time. I guess we won't see you, you will see us next time since I don't, we can't view any of our viewers this way since it's been pre-recorded. But yeah,
That technology does not yet exist.
we cannot view through the future. We cannot look through the future. Uh, we did not record ourselves and imprint ourselves in the video. That and we are not actually locked inside the box that you're either listening to or uh, watching. We are free roaming individuals that are doing our own thing as you're listening to this device. Sounds like something that unfrozen caveman lawyer would say. You're
Or are we, Mike?
Or are we? Well, we'll see. We'll find out next week if we can escape from this box and join our episode next week. So stay tuned for that. Good luck to your for those who are betting on this weekend's games. Uh, as long as your interests do not conflict with our interests, we wish you good luck. And until next time. I remain Dr. Michael Werman. He remains Dr. Andrew Scaff. We remain the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our podcasts or our YouTube channel. And again, we wish you a happy weekend and also a good day.
Nice.
There we
Easily our punchiest episode, Mike.
Yeah. At least for a while.
Both in
We
both
made
in
some
tiredness and in boxing coverage, I think. So it works two
in
ways.
hole punch coverage.
Three ways. It works three whole ways.